Welcome to the Transporter Room. I'm your host, Linda Pages, and I'm joined by my co host, Chris Garris. We are so excited to introduce our brand new series, Trek Tech. For our inaugural episode, we will be discussing the technology this channel is named after, and that is, of course, the Transporter. Is it a death machine? Let's find out.
I don't know. Is it a death machine?
Is it?
That has always been a question. Um, and I just, I hope not. I really do. I really hope not, because then that means I'm killing everybody when we bring them in on the show.
Well, are you killing them, or are you just well, I guess is a duplicate murder? Like if you duplicate yourself, is that still you, or did you if you kill the original? Does that make sense? Like did you still kill that person if you copy them in the exact same way?
See, that's where the discussion has always, we've had some issues with that, is because, I don't know. Ugh. I think we will have to discuss that a little bit later as we get farther on in this
I
topic.
agree. The Star Trek transporter, a device that has become synonymous with futuristic travel, has long captured the imagination. It represents humanity's dream of overcoming spatial limitations. This iconic technology, while fictional, prompts profound questions about its scientific viability and the implications it would have for understanding of self and consciousness. The enduring fascination with the transporter highlights a fundamental human desire for instantaneous travel and mastery over physical limitations. This desire, while fictionalized, subtly influences real scientific inquiry into related fields like quantum information, demonstrating a feedback loop between imagination and scientific pursuit. I am evidence of this feedback loop between imagination and scientific pursuit as I am pursuing a science degree because I grew up watching Star Trek. For instance, the very existence of quantum teleportation, yes, that is a real thing and it's awesome. But the very existence of this research, though distinct from matter transport, might draw some of its public and even scientific interest from the long-standing fictional dream of teleportation. The transporter immediately forces a confrontation with fundamental questions of identity. The killing or copying dilemma is not merely a narrative device, it serves as an accessible and dramatic entry point into complex philosophical debates about what constitutes a person, priming the audience for deeper ethical and metaphysical discussions. I'm just going to say it right now. Tuvix does not constitute a person when we get to that part of this discussion. The fictional mechanism of disassembly and reassembly at the atomic level inherently challenges our intuitive understanding of continuous existence and personal identity, making the philosophical implications an unavoidable and central aspect of the discussion from the very beginning.
That's a lot,
What a great intro.
but that is a great intro. And I mean, and so I think we almost need to kind of start off with, how does, the fictional transporter work in Star Trek? Because they always say it's a matter energy conversion, which sounds kind of scary.
A little bit. Yeah. All right. So the way that they explain the transporter working in Star Trek is it's a device that breaks you down at the molecular level and then reassembles you out of different matter in a new place. And this is why they can't always transport places, because you have to be on a class M planet because it has to have all of the materials that make you up.
Mm-hmm.
So this does beg the question. I do wonder if they've ever encountered this issue where like they might be able to beam data somewhere that they can't beam a biological
Hmm.
being. Or there
Well,
might be like they could beam this species here, but not this species because there's a compound this species has that's not found in this environment.
Well, I would say that you were probably correct, because you're being broken down to all the way down to everybody, a molecule by molecule, and so you have to be able to rebuild that. And you would think data could be rebuilt just about. I mean, he may not work perfect, but he could almost be rebuilt in any environment within reason. Um,
To my
yeah,
knowledge, this is not a thing, and I have not seen all of Star Trek. There's still a few
yeah.
things I haven't
No,
seen. To my knowledge, this is not something that's ever brought up, and I am curious because it's never like, well, we can't transport Andorians onto this planet because this is not naturally found in
yeah.
this environment or whatever, like insert
Mm-mm.
species here. So I do think that that's interesting. But the important takeaway here is that what the transporter is not doing is taking the same matter and like sending it through space to a new location.
See, now I didn't know that. I thought it was the same matter.
Mm-mm.
Huh.
And that is the argument of, well, it kills you. It literally breaks you apart at the atomic level, and then understands what makes you you, understands your code, so to speak, and is able to recreate that in a new place. And so that's why people say, well, it's not you anymore. It killed you. It killed that original version and it duplicated you. And that's basically exactly what it does. It is a duplicator. It's not really a transporter. It's creating a new you in a new environment. Um, which again, this so I don't know that they ever address this,
No, I
but
don't think to my knowledge, I have never heard them get to that level of, but here's the other thing though. There's episodes where they talk about you're, you're, you're actually still conscious in the matter
yes.
stream.
Okay. So there's an episode of Voyager where Janeway, I don't remember which episode it was, which is, I know, shocking for me because it's Voyager, but there
It
is an
is very
episode where,
shocking.
I know, I'm sorry, but there, it might be the one where their crew keeps getting displaced, I think is what it's called. The crew keeps getting replaced. But she makes a comment where she says it's an alien who does not have the same technology that they do and has never been transported, and he's describing this experience he had, and she says that sounds a lot like being what it feels like to be transported. So they know what it feels like. So they're not unconscious during that time period. Also, they never bring this up. However, there is also an episode of Voyager, Counterpoint, where they are holding the all of the telepathic aliens on the
Oh
ship
yeah.
in like transporter stasis
In the
basically.
buffer.
So, right, in the buffer. So I wonder if, like, let's say Janeway is transporting down to a planet. I wonder if they keep original Janeway, keep the matter that made up original Janeway in that transporter buffer. And then when they beam her back, it is the same matter and they recreate the same Janeway. They never talk about that. I do wonder if that's how it works though, because they're getting the matter from somewhere. Do they have a matter storage? Or do they keep the matter from the people they transported down to recreate them out of that same matter when they come back?
Mm-hmm. Well,
And
and
what
there's
happens to that
exactly.
on the planet?
Well, see, she's never. I mean, one. And that's a good question. Since she's never leaving the ship or the buffer, she's not being. Is she being destroyed? I don't know, but that also makes me think of the TNG episode Realm of Fear, where Lieutenant Barkley, or Broccoli as they like to call him every now and then, he is scared of transporter. He has transporter phobia. Period. He does not like it, but
It's
he
a
finally
valid phobia to have if this were real. That
absolutely.
would be
Well,
100% valid.
if I can find it, which I could, I have to say if I can put it in, I would love to. I may have to go find the quote. I'd love to find the actual little snippet of video where Dr. McCoy, and I want to. Well, he says it numerous times. You want to disassemble me and ship me across. He hated that. He didn't care for the transporters either. But Reg in Realm of Fear, he actually finds those. Well, what turned out to be the crew members from that other ship, but he sees them floating in the matter stream. And so, he grabs it, and then when they rematerialize, it's him and another person. And so, it's interesting. And there's another question, and I should have looked it up before we did this, but, and I know you just started Enterprise, so it's also this episode of Realm of Fear where the Forge, Geordi is talking about to him that, there hasn't been a case of transporter psychosis in 100 and something years. Well, that makes me think, okay, wait a second. So does that mean that everybody that was using the transporter on Enterprise, Archer and all of them, because they added a fourth, good old Trek know about, but they added a fourth dimensional something to the transporter to deal with that. But they did. That's what he said. 150 years. So that means maybe the end of Enterprise. So it should cover Kirk and his group and a little bit of Enterprise, but maybe not the beginning. That's 2251. Anyway, I've always wondered about that. how that works. But so yeah, so I didn't know that what you're saying. It has to use the other matter to recreate you at the other end. But you know, if you really stop and think about this, and as we were researching this, I mean, again, as much as I would love a transporter, because I'm getting ready to go to, well, I went to Vegas 2 weeks ago. I'm going to Orlando this weekend.
Yay!
Yes.
I will
And
also be at Star Trek Orlando this weekend.
yes.
Super
And
excited.
I would love to just be able to literally get in the transfer pad and beam my butt to either of those spots in five
Well, but
seconds.
would it be you?
Oh my gosh.
Okay, okay. So I
My
have to bring this
copy.
up now.
My
There's a
copy.
your copy. Okay, so this tells us something really important about transporters, which is that they don't really well, they're called transporters. They're really cloners. They clone you. Um, and so you can get into a super deep philosophical discussion here about, do you have a soul? If you do have a soul, or does it transport from original you to copy you, transported you on this in this new place?
Well,
Um,
and
and that would
exactly.
really solve the argument of, like, is it, I mean, it would help the argument of, like, is it still you? So that's a really, so I do wonder, I wish that we knew more about different alien races
Mm-hmm.
in Star Trek opinions on this, and if there's any that refuse to use the transporter because of this, because they think, like, I'm imagining, like,
Oh.
there are religions today, if this were real, that would say, in our religion we don't use them because we don't think our soul
Mm-hmm.
can find us when we've been transported. I'm imagining that would be a very real thing, and we don't really hear that in Star Trek, but um, I do imagine that faith would play a huge role in this, and just
Yeah.
risk a whole lot. So I think that would be really interesting to see.
Oh yeah, and I want to say if you're in the live chat, chime in on that one because I don't know why somewhere in the back of my mind I feel like I have heard a race talk about that they don't want to beam because it's destroying their soul. But anyway, if
I
you're in the
now that
chat,
we're talking about it, that sounds vaguely familiar, but
it does. And I
it's gotta be a Deep Space Nine thing, I guess, because that's where religion is most prominent, but I don't know.
correct. It's
Um,
somewhere in there. So if you're in the live chat and you know what that is, please tell us or leave a comment, and so we can look this up again. Um, but I was gonna just add though, what blows my mind, and actually it goes back to what you were saying. Okay, so and I know we're getting into a little more of the really really technical. Well, you will, not this guy. The the third year physicist is she'll get into this, but um, I did read some information about, okay, so the human body contains 10 to the 28th power of atoms. And to be able to scan that much data and then reconstruct it at the other end would be nearly impossible. And again, I'm not going to go too in depth because it's just above my head. But I was reading some stuff about this, and it was saying that there's no, and it kind of plays, I feel like, a little bit within your question about the soul and whatnot, is from what I was reading, it says it's nearly impossible to scan something at that level because you cannot, and there's probably some principle behind it, but you cannot know where every single atom is at that point in time. It's like impossible.
yeah, we will very likely never ever have this technology, regardless of even the philosophical implications or ethical implications of why we shouldn't. This would be just too difficult to do. I mean, this is just, I don't foresee this as a feasible thing in the future. And of course, of course, I'm sure people would have said that about just the technology that we use every day 1,000 years ago. So I guess never say never. However, with science as we understand it today, this is definitely not a feasible project. This is ridiculously complicated. Um, and yeah, like you said, I mean, that's an unfathomable number, um,
Correct.
for the human mind to comprehend.
And if you think now, that's what I'm saying. When it goes to what you were asking, it's like, okay, if you don't know what state that atom is, and when you rematerialize it or whatever, you try to rematerialize it, okay, it takes that image at that point in time, and then when it reconstitutes you, rematerializes you, it could be in a different state, which means, okay, oh my God, this is getting really kind of hurting your brain because you have it like this, and then when you rematerialize, you know, are you going to lose whatever that conscious thought was when that molecule is comes back in a different state? Hmm.
Yeah, you can't mess up. There's no room for error here. It's
Correct.
gotta be exact.
Hmm.
So
That's interesting.
yeah, there's just a lot of potential for it to go wrong, and of course we do see it go wrong in Star Trek. I think obviously we have clones, like, Riker famously had a clone. However, we're talking about the transporter, so we have to talk about Tuvix, of course. So now that we understand how the transporter works, and we'll do a separate episode, I'm sure, at some point on Tuvix because it's a whole other thing. But just briefly here, um, I feel like knowing how the transporter works definitely supports the argument of Janeway did the right thing because this was a mistake. Like their codes got mixed, and they ended up in this freak accident. And it had to be corrected. And then people will say, well, but they could have just rematerialized if they have Tuvok's code and Neelix's code, then they could have just rematerialized them. And from like basically it's like a video game, it's like your last saved point and you can respawn. And in theory, that is how the transporter works. They've never used it that way, but it is how it works. And it's that they totally could do that. And I would still argue that that would not be okay because I think the ethical implications of having your frenemy coworker, and this individual that is both of you combined, that knows everything about the two of you, it is the two of you, is unfair. So I think that understanding how this works definitely supports the argument of um, bye bye Tuvix. Hashtag bye bye Tuvix. If you follow the line, that is the most used hashtag. Firmly Team Janeway. But yeah, okay. So let's just assume that the transporter is real. Let's assume that
Okay.
this technology exists in Star Trek. I mean, like
Okay.
with ourselves in the Star Trek universe, they have so many missed opportunities for what they could be using it for. Now, my dad and I were talking about this. What I said is that the transporter should be medicine in the Star Trek universe.
Okay.
You break your
Explain.
arm on an alien planet. Okay, when we rematerialize you, we'll just rematerialize you with your arm not broken. And we know that they can do this because, well, we just explained how it works. So we know that they can, go edit the code when you come back and unbreak your arm. But we also know because they talk all the time about the biofilters. They never work. They're always like, oh, well, the biofilters will not pick that up. But they do mention them. So we know they're there. So we know that they're probably catching, or they should be bringing all these viruses back to the ship that don't make it back because the biofilter catches them. So when they're transmitting back, it's like that's not supposed to be in their code. We're going to delete that. So how is this not the cure to medicine? I mean, this is it. That's all you have to do. If you have a disease, then just go through the transporter and it'll just delete it, take it out,
I
edit
mean,
it.
that's a very, I mean, that's a very valid point because, as you already said, every time you go through the transporter, they have your record. So they know oh my God, which just now that, okay, that just made my head hurt because I'm sitting here thinking about the 10 to the 28th power of atoms. I know, so they're now having to store that much data in their systems to know, okay, I just beamed Linda. Now, this is how all of her bajillion atoms looked. Tell me how, when it's beaming you back, it's able to, oh my God. Like,
Well, that's Star Trek science. And
yeah, I
not to put
know.
something
And
here,
it's literally breaking my brain
it's
because,
insane when you actually think about what that looks like. But it's just there's just
but I know I'm getting on the side, but I agree with you. You're right. I feel like you're right because, again, since they can manipulate you at the molecular level, atom by atom, if I come up with if I have a broken arm, okay, let's just walk down or wherever, let's just beam, site to site transport, just okay, we know what your pattern looked like. Now, maybe they don't keep patterns forever. Now, I could see that. So now, if they don't have your pattern,
Sure.
then you would
But they
be,
should keep it for the time you're on an away mission,
well,
right?
okay, no, I agree with you on that 100%.
Yeah.
But after that, so it would be and I would see it could be used for like an emergency
Yeah.
purpose, like if you're on an away mission. Um, but then again, oh my God, as much as, okay, I don't know if I'm gonna like this series because now I'm starting to question all my Star Trek. That
I know. Okay, I had a professor last semester who, um, I love her. She said at the very beginning of the semester, she comes up to me and she goes, "I'm so sorry." And I said, "For what?" And she said, "I know how much you love sci-fi and specifically Star Trek, and I'm sorry about this class because you're never going to be able to watch the same way again, and you're going to become the most annoying person to watch like action or sci-fi movies or TV shows with." And I was like, "What?" I'm thinking like, what a weird thing to say. And she was 100% right. She was 100% right. But yeah, it should be medicine, and so every time, like, again, I'm sorry, coming back to Voyager though, but, like, that when Neelix loses a lung to the Vidians, they've beamed Neelix. They have the pattern for this lung. Put him through the transporter and, like, give him the matter for that lung when you read right? Like, everything that ever went wrong with Seven of Nine's Borg implants, I mean, they ended up being useful a lot in the series, like her being part Borg, but they could, in theory, well, I don't know about that one, maybe because they didn't beam her while she was human, but maybe, like, could have, I don't know. There's just a million things. Also, and this is where it gets, and you could argue that it's ethically murky to use the transporter for medicine,
yeah,
100%. It
absolutely,
is. This is all of this is very like you got to kind of pick a philosophical viewpoint and
yeah.
stick with it for this. Um, but also, no one, I mean, how has no one used the transporter to bring back someone they loved who died? If
Hmm.
you because if you beam down on an away mission and you die, no one on the ship like kind of goes crazy with grief and is like, I have their transporter pattern and recreates them because you can.
Hmm. Oh,
I mean, that would be a fantastic Star Trek episode. And then,
but
of course,
they.
at the end of it, they have to, dematerialize them and accept it. But just that, like, um,
That's
but that would
oh
be a great
man,
episode.
because they well. So now we're contradicting some stuff here, because or the transport itself, because they always say it can't create life. It's
No,
duplicating life.
but if you have the matter that's stored,
Hmm. Wow, that's a damn, that's a good one. I don't know. I mean, oh boy, that now you're getting into humongous ethical and
this is what
philosophical
I'm
and
saying. Okay, you
religious.
want to talk about humongous ethical discussions for the transporter? While my dad and I are having this conversation, I'm bringing up all the uses for medicine. All the ways they should have been using this for medicine. My dad was like, "The transporter was the greatest weapon that they ever had," and I was like, like, tell me more." And he's like, when they encountered the Borg, they could have just dematerialized them and left them dematerialized. Like, you encounter, like, if you're in a battle now, is that ethical? Of course it's not ethical, but it is your greatest weapon. I mean, you
As
never,
long as you can lock on,
yeah, as long as you can lock on to them, you can literally dematerialize the entire ship and everyone in it.
the ship might be a little bit too big,
I mean,
probably.
if you if if they had come to this realization and they were using transporters as their main source of weaponry,
True.
then they would figure out a way to do that
Okay,
because
I
that
can.
would be,
Yes, yes, yes,
yeah,
yes. Okay, that
so
I
that
can
would
see.
be
If they were to
right.
use it
Just
like
take the
that,
whole Borg cube and just poof,
oof, that's a lot of energy. That's a big. That's
that's
a
a
lot of.
lot of energy,
Well,
but that's the
but
only
oh my
weapon you ever
gosh,
need,
they would
ever.
have to do something. They would have. Obviously, it would have to be designed that way because if you, because now it makes me think of Star Trek Four, The Voyage Home, the one with the whales,
The one with the
and
whales.
and Scotty specifically makes a comment about I've never beamed. I think he says like he's never beamed. What was it like 40? Oh gosh, I have to look up anyway. he talks about he's never beamed that much weight and content before because, and Kirk's like, what? He goes, it's not just the whales, it's also the water. And so it added so much weight to the ship, and it took a lot of energy to materialize all that water and all. Interesting. But another thought process I just had here. I wonder how it handles matter and antimatter, because when they beam, boy, okay, yeah, because like I remember there's a scene. Well, I've done it more than once, but I can remember the scene in Nemesis when Picard and Data are coming out of the scimitar, and Riker says, "Beam them back," and he beamed the entire ship into the cargo bay. All right. Well, I think we have probably beat that one somewhat to death, the Star Trek piece. But there is an actual quantum teleportation, and I'm going to use the teleportation in air quotes.
Yes.
And so, what we have done in today with our technology today, and you talked about it at the beginning, was quantum teleportation. And the differences between Star Trek transporting and quantum teleportation is quantum, you're transferring information and a state. You're not moving matter.
Right. So this is very cool, and this comes up a lot in discussions about teleportation. Um, but the word teleportation here is not the same as we talk about in Star
No.
Trek. This is not the basis for a transporter. This is not like step one. We're not like one step closer to a transporter doing this. This is just a way to send. It is cool as hell, but it's just a way to send information. We absolutely cannot use this principle to teleport or transport matter. We still have to do that manually, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your viewpoint. However, it is really cool. It's very nerdy. It's very, very cool though. So yeah, but I this is definitely not a I've definitely seen this get brought up in discussions about, Star Trek technology becoming real. And I know there's a lot of hope that a lot of Star Trek technology will become real because it has. Like we have automatic doors and elevators and all of these things that, weren't as prominent or didn't even exist in the 60s as cell phones. Um Laptops, iPads, like all of these things. So definitely we've been lucky enough to get to see technology on screen in Star Trek first and then have it in our actual lives. But the transporter is not one of those things. That's not something that we're going to get to. Certainly, definitively not within our lifetimes. I would doubt that it would ever happen, but um, most certainly not.
Yep. You're right. I mean, I do think with I'm going to say the quantum teleportation, that what it's going to allow us to do, and I'm trying to find my notes here real quick. Um, the main thing, one of the biggest things it's going to help us as a society is, or from technology, is it's going to make basically encryption nearly impossible to break. Because of the way it's done, it's changing the states from one over to the other. And so it is, and this is what's weird again, if I'm not read this right, it is actually when it is changing that through quantum entanglement, which is just went like, that's a big word that I, am just saying here, but it is still actually, if I read that right, I think it's destroying
Yeah.
that quantum state on this end, and it's just turning it on. It's turning it on. Basically, it's replicating it or turning it on the other end. So as soon as this one destroys it, it's boom, it's over there, and it's almost instantaneously. So once that original copy is destroyed, you can't break into it, and that's pretty dang cool. Now there was something I read about, and the distances now they have done the quantum teleportation. And you use air quotes on the teleportation. Um, they have been able to do it a whole 18 miles by Northwestern University scientists in December of 2024. Um, and I'm gonna read it. There it is. This demonstrates feasibility in real-world commercial grade networks rather than just lab-controlled environments. And it says these experiments have achieved high accuracy with quantum states being teleported with near perfect accuracy, an astonishing 99% success rate. So, with quantum teleportation, a 99% success rate is great. Human teleportation,
No,
99%
bad.
is no go.
That means 1 in 100 people will not be successfully
Yeah.
teleported.
So,
So yeah,
no,
not good there.
not good there at
No.
all.
um, yeah, just thinking about how many people would use a transporter. Anyway, I don't know. That's a good question. If you're watching this live and you're hanging out in the chat, or if you're watching this after it's already been up, comment. Let us know. Would you use a transporter? Why or why not? How do you feel about it? It's it's such a it's so interesting. It really is the way that it works. And just there's so many moral and ethical implications. Oh, can't believe I forgot to bring this up earlier. There's a thought experiment
Oh, yeah. We were talking about this off
called
camera.
the Ship of Theseus. And this experiment is if you have a ship and you replace one board, we can all agree it's still the same ship, right? Um, if you replace 2 boards, 3 boards, how much of the ship can you replace before it's no longer the same ship? Now, in addition to that, if you but I was gonna say replicated, but because we're talking about Star Trek, I can't say replicated. If you takes on a whole new meaning, if you rebuilt the same ship and you built it exactly the same as you, but the original ship still exists, you build an exact copy of the same ship. Are they the same ship? Exact copy. Every scratch, every detail, it's exactly the same. What if you took apart the ship of Theseus and then you use those parts to rebuild this new ship? There's so many variations of this. And I think this definitely applies to the transporter argument because what is it that makes you you? Is it the physical matter that makes you up, that makes you you, or is it your thoughts, your identity, your personality, your perspective, your soul, if we believe that you have one? Um if all of those things are what makes you you, then the transporter does not kill you. If you're okay with the fact that it's new matter that's making you up. Um, that is indistinguishable from the old matter that made you up. Like if the doctor were to scan you on Voyager, like it wouldn't be like, oh well, this is a clone, right? Like it's to medically you're the same. At least that's how they acknowledge it in Voyager. Or in Star Trek. Sorry, just talking about Voyager, just in Voyager. Um, but I think that thought experiment is incredibly applicable to the transporter, and your answer to those two things have to be the same to be philosophically consistent in your viewpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, ugh,
I almost double majored in philosophy, so I get really nerdy about this. Like I love talking about it. This is my favorite things to talk about other than science and Star Trek. So I'm really excited that it comes up so much in this discussion.
I mean, because you've got the teleportation paradox, and it says the recreated person the same, an individual or a perfect copy. Mm, God, that's tough. I mean, is the object the same if all the components are replaced over time? See,
There's a secret third option here. I said that your viewpoint, your answer has to be the same for your philosophical viewpoint to be consistent. However, you could argue that um that people that the answer to this is different if what you're transporting or what you're replicating is conscious,
Yeah.
and it's an object. You
No,
can
I
say,
agree.
no, it's not the same object, but your individuality makes you the same person, even if it's not like the same matter.
Yeah.
Um, so
But you've
there is, I guess, a way to tweak that where you can still be consistent, and have
yeah.
kind of different answers, but
But you've
um, but it's so interesting.
golly.
I think I could take either position in this in a debate.
Hmm. I
Um,
mean, I think it's a copy. It's not the same. I don't care if I mean, are you saying now? Here's the question: are you going to say it's also got a copy of your memories and all of your everything you've ever had,
That's what
all
the
your
transporter does, right? I mean, they never beam back up to the ship and they're like, "Where am I? Who am I? What's going on?" They never beam down to a planet and forget the mission. Sometimes they're mid battle or mid thought or mid whatever, and they
hmm
get beamed and they get back and they're just
yeah.
continuing the same
Well,
work they were doing.
and that answer, and honestly, just literally sitting here thinking about the duplicate Riker, that is an
Mhm.
exact 100%. He had all of Will's memories and thoughts at that point in time.
Yep, it was him, and
It
we call it like the transport. But the truth of the matter is, uh, if Will Riker hadn't beamed back, then his duplicate I mean, no one would have thought twice, including him, never would have thought twice about it. It just would have been Will Riker. 'Cause it is. They just copied him, like, they just beamed him back twice, so it's not like um yeah,
yeah,
so
because
it's been a while since I've seen that episode, so
well,
I
if I
don't
remember correctly, so
but
if I remember from that episode, he was getting beamed back, but then like the signal got reflected. If I remember correctly, like I said, it's been a bit since I've seen that one, but I can see like the in my head the schematic. They showed an image of the transport beam, and it's like it got reflected, which somehow made a duplicate.
that sounds like Truck No Babble, but
It is
more
Technobabble, 100%
animated.
at its
But
best.
yeah,
But
and
yeah,
it's true. But
but
yeah,
again, it's him. It's his exact
yeah,
memories.
it's no different than any other time he's beamed onto the ship. It's just this time they did it twice.
Okay. So then that literally is your paradox or your thought experiment to
Mhm.
the right there. If I'm thinking correctly, that would be your thought experiment because
Yep, that's the closest you can
that's the
get with the
closest
transporter,
that we have. Huh. Well, I don't know. This was definitely a hard topic to start with, I feel, but it
but
was
it's a
also a
super
good one.
interesting one and very
But it
exciting.
is. It's a very
So
interesting.
there's so much to unpack here.
Hmm.
I really could debate this for hours and hours. This is something that
Yeah,
I really love talking about. It's such a good discussion to have. Um,
it is,
and
and I'm glad
and
we're
there's
doing this.
yeah, and I love. I mean, Star Trek, of course, talks about science and exploration and discovery, but also talks a lot about politics and philosophy. And we don't always talk about the philosophical side of Star Trek. And I'm super excited that we got to today that we got to combine the science and the philosophy because, like I said earlier, like almost double majored in philosophy. If I had room in my schedule, I'd still be doing it. I love it so much. I love the intersection between these two things. I think philosophy belongs in every field and in every discussion. Um, and so it's just super exciting to be able to talk about it here in one of the most debated Star Trek um,
It is.
things. Yeah,
It
it's really
is. I feel like you're right. It is probably one of the most debated topics
Mhm.
of the whole one of the franchise. Other than yeah, no, I think it really is because, as you said earlier, if you think about it, I'm thinking more of on the the evil side of it. How easily to be just beam your enemy out, just transform and just put their pattern out to space.
You don't even have to finish the beam though, is what I'm saying. Like you could. I mean, the Kazon did that certainly. I mean, they were beaming people into space, and that's one way you could do it, of course. But why waste? As awful as this is to say, like if we're just throwing morality out the window for a second, we're look at this purely from a tactical standpoint. Why waste the matter?
Yeah. Well,
If
don't
you
rematerialize them. You
if
can
you
send
can
the energy stream out.
exactly, if you can dematerialize a Borg cube and everything in it, you have matter stored for the rest of whatever your mission is, right? Like use that matter for other things if
Hmm.
you have it. Create an army.
Yeah,
What's stopping you from doing that?
that's a
Like,
good one.
um,
And it makes me think it makes me think of the scene from ooh, I'm gonna say this, and I can already see the people in the live chat when I say this word. Section 31, when
I haven't seen it. I
they,
cannot provide thoughts.
yeah, you're just, you're not, oh, I don't want to say you're not missing it, but anyway, yeah, I'm treading here. I'm treading lightly on this one. But anyway, there's a scene when they literally beam down like an entire regiment of soldiers, just like that. And so again, think about how much energy that took.
A lot.
So anyway, I'm gonna leave. That's all I'm saying on Section 31. I know the people they're gonna call it. I'm not gonna say y'all's names, but I know who it is. I can see it scrolling right now. Anyway, um, well, honestly, I've enjoyed this discussion tonight.
Me too.
It's been
This was
fun,
fun.
and I'm looking forward to our next one. Which let me get our list real quick. I gotta
What is
find
our
it.
next one? Have we decided on a next one?
Well, we have it written down. So
Oh, we do? Let me look.
according to this, it should be holodecks.
Oh,
Yes, in our little Trek Tech notes, it should be
now that
holodecks is the next one, which I'm actually. Oh, I may have to see if we can get that one out sooner than later. The only reason why I'm saying that is because we just had a Strange New Worlds episode about holodecks.
oh,
And that's all I'm going to say at that point, at least on the camera. Um, but that would be really cool but that's the next one according to the list. So just to give everybody an idea of the things we're talking about. Obviously, transporters was tonight, then holodecks, warp drives, and then I think you can't come up with this one, but are we starships and are they sentient?
okay. Yes, I have a lot of things to say about the
Mm-hmm.
Starship in a good way.
Rep-
I'm very excited about that one.
oh yeah, me too. Replicators, the emergency medical hologram, the doctor.
Super excited for that one.
And then also we talked about data,
Yeah.
Jordy's visor,
Yes.
medical stuff, the hyperspray, and just in general, um, bioneural circuitry, evil AIs, the Delta
Oh, I have
Flyer.
Voyager's resources on here
Oh yeah,
because
exactly.
how did they not run out over the course of 7 years ever?
Well,
Anything?
they found places. They used Neelix, and he had the
Yes,
places.
but
Um,
yeah,
we'll
we'll
get into
talk about
that.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then honestly, one of the biggest ones on here, I feel like at the end is so far it will be universal translators
yeah.
because they have so many plot holes in there. It's crazy.
Yeah, the biggest one, I'm watching Enterprise for the first time right now. I've just seen, I guess, what's technically episode 3 because the pilot was 2 parts. But
Hmm.
Universal, I know they don't have universal translators yet at this point, but it did get me thinking with Porthos. Like, it is interesting to me that you have to obtain a certain level of sentience in order for the universal translator to work. It doesn't
Yep.
work on animals, which um
And
very
as being someone who's watched Enterprise all the way through multiple times, there is a scene way down in the series, couple of episodes that exact statement is almost said.
oh
One of the characters says that it's a lower life form, you fool. It can't be translated.
right. I'm just curious, like what level of we'll talk about in that episode, but like what level of sentience do you have to obtain? How does it measure that? Like what is the scale? Like we'll create a chart when we get there.
That's actually a good question, but that's
Yeah,
for that one's going to be a way potentially. Well, that list it's our list. Doesn't mean we have to go up, but yes,
that's true. We could go in whatever order we want.
definitely. I do want to do the next one's holodecks,
Okay,
um,
let's do it.
because for one, the advantages to having them. Oh my god, and so many things.
But
Yeah, I'm not going to even go any further, but those would be yes, holodecks would be good.
humanity would collapse if we had holodecks right now
The only
as a
thing we have
society.
to do is keep poor Jordy out of them.
Oh,
Poor guy. Poor Jordy. That's
And
all I
Barkley.
have.
Barkley too, because
Oh God,
you
yes.
should
Oh,
never
I
be
forgot.
able to make, unless it's for a training simulation, like a tactical training simulation. You should never be able to make, like, AI won't even generate. I mean, I know it will, but most AIs won't even generate images of real people. So, oh Jesus, so a holodeck should never be able to create. It should be like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to create
Yeah.
your crew on the holodeck so that they can like you. That's weird. No, I'm not going to do that.
Well, and wait until we get to replicators. I've got some ideas on that. So, but
Yes.
anywho,
Well, this was so much fun.
it
I'm
was.
very, very excited about this new series. Thank you so much to everybody watching.
Thank
I
y'all.
hope you enjoyed. Please come back for more. Um, yeah, live long and prosper.
Have a good night, everybody. Bye.
Thank you for watching The Transporter Room. For just $5 per month, enjoy ad-free access to this episode and all previous ones, plus exclusive bonus content. Sign up now on Patreon.